Hello, friends, or if you prefer, what's up, team? So anyway, I thought I'd do a little bit of a review of recent games and a preview of upcoming ones. I would have done it earlier. I would have done it yesterday, but there was a bit of vacuuming going on at home, and I think that might have got into the sound of the video. This is the home studio, by the way. So anyway, I gave up yesterday. So, all right, let's see. We had last weekend, it is now, France 27, Uruguay 12. Uruguay played better than people probably expected. French number 5 got a yellow for head contact, which could have been a red. And on the 15th, that was last Friday, we had New Zealand against Namibia, rather as expected, a bit one-sided, 71-3. And Ethan de Groot, the prop, number 17, got a red card for head contact. And there was talk of whether that was entirely fair compared with the French one of the previous day. This is the sort of thing which happens when you have this system. And then we had a 3-3 together on Saturday. Samoa-Chile, 43-10, where the Samoans more or less overwhelmed the Chileans, which I think was a bit of a shame. They're just bigger and heavier, and they sort of made that tell, particularly in the second half. Wales-Portugal, 28-8. You credit Portugal with that scoreline. Full of fight there, as are the Chileans, of course. Ireland-Tonga, 59-16. Okay, fair enough. You'd expect that sort of scoreline from world number 1 ranked team. And then we've got Africa-Romania, 76-0. Oh dear. Well, I suppose that was predictable. A lot of these games are between tier 1 and tier 2, or just about tier 2 nations. Australia-Fiji. Now that was a bit of a surprise. Fiji beat Australia 22-15. Eddie Jones had lots to say in the post-match press conference about how he was deliberately going for a young team for the next World Cup, which will be in Australia, which is all very well, but this puts Australia in a difficult position as regards getting out of the pool this time round, which I think will be a first for them if they don't make it. So will Eddie keep his job? If that happens, I don't know. There's been talk, I think it's just Twitter talk, or I'm not sure how well informed it is, but that he might be invited to come back to coach Japan, which I think is a bad idea, frankly. I mean, we all know what he's like, and I really don't think that's a runner. I hope not, anyway. That's my personal view. Not that we're not grateful to Eddie for what he did before, but I'm not sure anybody could go through that sort of brutal regime again, or, well, anyway, who knows? Not to mention his press conferences, mate, but there we are. And then England, Japan. Ah, yes. Well. This was a game of cards, really, I thought, with Joe Marler as the Joker, with his heading on of the ball, which is not a knock-on. I'm sure he'd read the rules carefully and thought about it, and some say he'd even polished his forehead to make it easier to head the ball. I have no idea. It's almost possible with him. Well, anything's possible with him, of course. So that was pretty much a turning point in the game when he headed the ball on. It wasn't a knock-on, and Courtney Lawes, the captain, took it in for the try. Japanese players, I think they all stopped assuming it was a knock-on. Not good idea. Play to the whistle, guys. It's pretty basic. If the referee hasn't blown his whistle, the ball is still in play. So you have to keep going, all right? So I thought that was a little bit amateur from Japan. I was also disappointed by some of Japan's tactics. They almost seem to want to mirror England, sort of do a lot of kicks. And I think Nagare was he was trying to do lots of dinky little chip kicks, which is fine if you do them into space where your man can run onto them. But I think time after time, if I can remember correctly, he was kicking either directly to an England player, direct into the breadbasket, or close enough for the England player to hoover it up and then cause trouble. So really, that didn't look good. And I think Nagare himself was frustrated because I saw him push a player at one point, and I think if he's in that mood, he shouldn't really be on the field. So I would have had Saito on, who's younger, probably more running in Saito, I would say. I think is Nagare 34 years old, something of that nature. He's a good player. I'm not saying he's not a good player, but I would have had Saito on much earlier, possibly starting. I would also have had Dians on and Riley on much earlier, perhaps even starting, because I think it was going to be speed which could have unsettled England there. But never mind, it's gone now. Something to think about for the future. Just by the by, interesting factoids, if you will. If you look at my Japan supporters jersey here, in the middle, you probably can't see it on the camera, but there's a fleur-de-lis, which is a nod to France as the, it's a very faint sort of background gray or pattern. And it's a fleur-de-lis, which is a nod to the French, who are, of course, holding the World Cup Championship this time. And also, there's a rather intricate Japanese pattern in there as well. So if you're actually in France and you're either wearing a Japanese current jersey or you know someone who is, why don't you just take a look and you'll see all these things for yourself. I'm here in Japan, so I can't do that, but I have learned these things by studious observation of what's going on the net. Okay, all right, and so here we go up to today, and I have watched Italy Uruguay this morning, not live, but as soon as I got up, basically, which was about 6 a.m. And I think it was about 2 hours after the game here in Japan. And yeah, the score 38-17. I suppose that's predictable in terms of the world rankings. Although at halftime, Uruguay was definitely in the game, and you know, it could have gone their way. But perhaps they're still a bit unpolished, I suppose, and lacking international experience. They did come to Japan last year. I think they were beaten twice by Japan. I watched one of the games at Kee-tah-kew-shoo Mikuni Stadium. And one thing I found disappointing about about Uruguay at the end of the game, they seemed to be sort of carrying on arguments with the Italian players, or some of them did, and probably not all of them, I presume. And I thought, well, in Japan, that's a huge no-no, because it's against the so-called no side idea, where everything is left up. What goes on the field is left on the field, and I think that's the way rugby really should be. And I'm afraid it puts me in mind of what happened after, was it Uruguay-Wales? I think it was, yes, which I went to see in Kumamoto in the previous World Cup. And apparently, well, they played hard, Uruguay again, and they were beaten, but a couple of their players disgraced themselves in a nightclub later on. Or I don't know what they did exactly. I wouldn't even like to try to remember, but it left a bad taste in the mouth. And I think if I was the coach of Uruguay, I'd be wanting to have a bit of a stern word about how to behave after games, right? So there we are. That's all I've got to say about that. So we move on to previews. We've got France-Namibia coming up, which surely is going to be a French win, but by how much, I don't know. I think probably they should go over 50 points, but anyway. And then we've got Argentina-Samoa, and that's very interesting, because for me anyway, because that's in Japan's pool D. And well, Argentina were beaten by England, weren't they? I can't remember the score exactly, if I can find it. Yes, 27-10. which a little surprised me. And I was wondering, I thought Argentina rugby had just gone down a notch. And if you want to look for a reason, one reason I would suggest, possibly, is that the Jaguares, I hope I've pronounced it right, the Jaguars, the pro team that Argentina had in the Super Rugby competition, is no more. I think it disbanded in 2020 for whatever reason. And I think that may have had an effect on Argentina's performance or level, shall we say. I've no idea. I haven't studied the rankings or anything, but you see, we've got a similar problem in Japan, where we did have the Sunwolves before 2019 World Cup, and that made a tremendous difference, because it was a halfway house, or a stepping stone between Japanese domestic rugby, so that's mainly company rugby, and international rugby. So it allowed players to get a real feel and understand the level that was required at the higher level, you know, which frankly it is a higher level than Japanese domestic rugby. Although there are some very good teams in Japanese domestic rugby, Panasonic and Kubota and so on. At any rate, I think that's probably what's happened to Argentina and Japan this time around. And if you look, on the other hand, at Fiji, hey-ho, they've got Fiji and Drua all of a sudden, and they seem to be doing a lot better this time, and they might be in the quarterfinals. Well, good luck to them, but it just shows you that the opportunity to play against higher level teams is absolutely crucial for the development of any team. At least that's what I think it shows. I mean, you may have a different view, but let me know in the comments if you do, or if you don't. If you agree, just let me know. Then what have we got? On Saturday, Georgia, Portugal. I don't know. I haven't seen enough of them to predict that one, but I suppose Georgia, which I believe is higher in the rankings than Portugal. England, Chile. Well, I think Chile will be smaller in the forwards, from what I can tell, but I think they'll play with huge spirit, and I really wish them all the best. And I do hope Marlow doesn't come up with some idiotic joker ploy like he did against Japan. And if he does, at least people are wise to it. Yeah, sorry. And the next one is South Africa, Ireland. Wow, that's a biggie, because of course South Africa won the World Cup 2019 in Japan, and Ireland are the current top-ranked team. So that will be huge. And I really hope, from a Scotland point of view, because that's my other team, I really hope that South Africa do very well in that game. Good luck, lads. And sorry, Ireland, but that's the way it is. For me, anyway. And then on the 24th, which is Sunday, we've got Scotland, Tonga. Should be a Scotland win, but Tonga, they're a good side, and I think they've got 4 ex-All Blacks in their team, so you can't write them off at all. And Wales, Australia. Now that could be the make or break for Australia's progress to the quarterfinals. And judging on current, or the most recent performance, I would say it's going to go to Wales. I think both sides are going to be pretty determined. It will be an interesting watch, I'm sure. So that is all that's coming up. And just to finish off this video, if I can, I'd like to have a quick mention of the book which I've translated from Japanese. If I can find, whoops, I've got to share the screen first. Sorry, just a minute. Share screen. Well, it's on the desktop, but where is it? Just a minute. Perhaps I'd better open it first. I've got the front cover here. It's 8 steps to build 8 steps to build a winning team, I think. Hang on, just a minute. I can't even remember the title. 8 steps to build an invincible team. Yeah, there we are. So whiteboard, no, I want basic files. I think, no, it's not file, basic. Okay, well, here's the desktop, and you can see it there on the left side, okay, with the author Toshiyuki Hayashi, Maru, as he likes to be called in as a first name or a nickname, I should say. Anyway, that's available, and I'll put a link in the description to this video, and I've also got a web page for it, which is coming up to, I think, 1,800 views since November of last year. So I am counting, or there is a counter on the web page. If you think it's interesting, go over to Amazon, and there you are. It's all there. It's in 3 formats: Kindle, paperback, and hardcover. Okay, well, until we meet again, as they say in some song somewhere, take care, and I'll see you very soon. Thank you very much.